right, it's 2 minutes past 5:30, so we'll get started here, so we can learn a little bit about bay conservation today. So welcome everyone to the Stewardship Hour, organized by the Clean County Commission. My name is Emma Zara Newman. I'm co-chair of the Clean County Commission with Peg Borman, and we're really excited to bring this program to you today. Just in case you're wondering, what is the Stewardship Hour? Our goal is to keep citizens informed about county sustainability initiatives. So I should update that. This is a every other month education program for citizens in James City County or anyone who's interested. We'll learn from an expert on a particular subject, and there's a chance to ask questions and engage in meaningful conversations. And the piece that we really like to hold up as a really important part of these is that we walk away with specific action steps on not just learning about a problem or something worth protecting, but learning how to protect it or what we can do to be better stewards of our land and our ecosystem here in James City County. So today we're going to talk about the big giant idea of bay conservation and waterway protection, and we have Trevor Long here to talk with us. So here's a couple of our objectives for the day, some things we'll be touching on. Here are a couple of objectives we're going to get through today. We're going to learn about how we are personally affected and how we can protect waterways, what current laws and ordinances we can learn about that protect waterways in the bay. We're going to take a look at our own habits and kind of analyze what we can change and what we can do better. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Clean the Bay Day on May 31st to June 5th. And we'll share some information about how to be involved with that and a couple other events coming up. So I'm very excited to hand it over to Trevor and hear what he has to say. I'm going to leave up this information just for a second, but then I'm going to actually take my screen share off and we'll put his face up and have him talk to us a little bit. Trevor, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey guys, again, my name is Trevor Long, work with James City County Stormwater and Resource Protection. Excited to be here and thankful that you guys are here listening to what we have to say. Like Emma said, we'll be talking about bay conservation here today, and I hope everyone can hear me all right as well. Yeah, again, bay conservation is really a big topic to discuss. So I think one of the biggest things and the first things to get off is that we're a little ways away from the bay, but everything that we do here in the county leads down to the bay. James City County is surrounded by three major rivers, the Chickahominy, the James, and the York, each of which lead down to the Chesapeake Bay eventually. So everything that we do here in the county does go downstream to the Chesapeake Bay. So that is kind of why we take environmental stewardship, stormwater, and water quality so importantly here at the county. And everything that we do does kind of lead down to those things. So James City County is a beautiful place to live. We have a lot of amazing environmental places, especially when we look at a lot of the municipalities around us. We're really, really lucky to have and live in a place where we have such great tributaries that lead us to recreation, aesthetics and beauty, all of these things. So it's really, really important that we do keep water quality kind of at the forefront as homeowners, as a government agency, and just as citizens of this county. So what's important about the tributaries that are leading and surrounding this county? So there's a lot of animals that live in these tributaries. Everything that leads to the rivers, the streams, the creeks, the wetlands, they all have a ton of organisms in it that are breeding and then ultimately lead to good conservation items such as water quality. Organisms are a great indicator for stream health, wetland health, and ultimately good water quality indicators. So we want to keep those organisms happy. We want to keep the waters clean. And there's a lot that we can do about that. So things that as homeowners that we can do and citizens, there's, again, water quality as a whole is a wide spectrum of, it's kind of a multifaceted topic. So I think one of the biggest things that we want to impose tonight is that throughout your daily lives, there's a lot that can be taken away from, sustainable landscaping. Everything that comes from the sky goes to the ground and then runs somewhere. So whether there's a creek behind your house, you live directly on the river, or you feel like you live directly on concrete, say in an apartment complex or in a neighborhood that you really don't see much water, that water is going somewhere and it's running directly towards either a wetland that's leading out of your area to a stream or a creek that's then flushing to a river that's then going to the Chesapeake Bay. So what comes out of the sky is really, really important as it flows into these rivers. So a big part of making sure that water quality is taken care of as it travels down its natural path into the rivers and ultimately into the Chesapeake Bay is what it's passing over. So water quality degrades with less vegetation. So sustainable landscaping is really, really important. The less vegetation in an area, the more chances for water quality to pick up things like nitrogen and phosphorus, fertilizers, sediment. Um, all of these things are really, really harmful towards water quality and the things that live in it. So that's kind of a broad overview on why things are important. So kind of getting into what you can do as citizens and homeowners. Planting native vegetation is always a good thing. The more vegetation that's around, the less likely for water quality to continue degrading. Water quality stops sediment from moving into these waters. Um, it, it uptakes nutrients, meaning that anything the water flows over, say that if there's it came over a parking lot or it came off your roof and there could be phosphorus in it, things that are harmful towards water quality can be soaked up by these plants. So the more plants, vegetation that are in an area, the better. It's also important to do things like pick up your pet waste. Bacteria is a huge issue, especially in this area. We have a lot of dogs. We have a lot of places to take our dogs. And if animal waste isn't taken care of properly, it can be a huge issue for the water quality and the organisms that live in it. And us as individuals, because environmental health doesn't just affect what's in the water living, but those who recreate in it. Bacterial coliform is a large issue, can cause swimming hazards, things like that. That in the summertime, people want to get out and enjoy the rivers. They're a beautiful place to recreate, and if we don't take care of things like pet waste, then that can kind of make a mess of it all for us. So taking care of that's a big issue. Other than that, proper disposal of fats, oils, and greases are another thing that we really kind of want to impose tonight. Um, Fats, oils, and greases should not go down the drain. Not only does it cause a huge issue for your plumbing, but it also can leach into the groundwater, get into the stormwater. If it's a problem with your plumbing and things start to break, then now we've got the possibility of these fats, oils, and greases to end up in the water. That can be harmful towards organisms as well, people in general, and overall water quality just kind of as a whole. So that's another big thing that we want to take away tonight is that whether it's your yard that you're taking care of, your pets, fats, oils, and greases, all these things ultimately lead towards a more sustainable waterway. Um, so disposing of things properly is kind of a fail safe that most people don't think of. People don't really realize that as they're pouring their vegetable oil or their animal product oil down the drain, that what could be an unknown result of it is that uh, you know water quality is going to degrade and that you might not be able to swim in the river this summer, things like that. So that's something that you guys can do from a homeowner's perspective. There's also a lot that we do on the governmental side of things. We this whole division, the Stormwater and Resource Protection Division, is centered around water quality. And there's a lot that we do to ensure that water quality is maintained at a high level. Everything from site development, when developments, neighborhoods, new buildings go into effect or are built, that they're not doing anything harmful to water quality either. So we as a division take water quality really, really seriously. There's a lot that we do on the back end to make sure that there's nothing going to the houses that you guys live in and the neighborhoods that get built affect downstream waters, because that's really what we care about is the not only the local water quality but downstream, because all the little things end up going down and monument into bigger problems with the Chesapeake Bay. So what gets done here in the county isn't just a problem for us. It's also a problem for downstream waters like Newport News, Pocosin, all the way into the bay. So that's kind of like at the forefront of our governmental and municipal um, principles. Really, is that we're upstream a good little ways, and we have the ability to affect things downstream pretty tremendously, really. So that, from our side of things, taking care of water quality as far as engineering goes, we abide by a lot of regulations here in the county as well. There's the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act that enacts buffer zones around certain streams, rivers, anything that is going to lead to the Chesapeake Bay, and that we want to keep those areas vegetated and a buffer well maintained. So, and those aren't imposed in order to just say no to development, things like that. It's really there to make sure that there's no net loss of water quality that's going to occur in any of the streams, creeks, and rivers that we're surrounded by. Um, we also have a wetlands ordinance that we have people abide by, and that has to do with vegetation that's actually in the water. So on one side of things, we have vegetation buffers that are upstream or upland, excuse me, actually on people's properties. And then we also have ordinances that affect what's actually in the water. So these are all ways that us here at the county are trying to make sure that there's no nutrients, sediment, and things like that running off. Because what we see when these things aren't taking place is the incision of channels, creeks and streams that were once really really beautiful begin to slough off, and we get these tremendous banks that are annually depositing, you know, numerous pounds of sediment into the water that's causing fish kills, vegetation to decrease because it can't get sunlight, things that ultimately will take effect both right now and then for years to come. The thing with water quality is that it it affects us right now, but we also sometimes don't see a lot of the effects, especially the negative ones, until we get much more we get much further down the road. So a lot of the things that happened 10 to 20 years ago, we're still seeing the effects from, and we didn't see them then. So we're trying to our best to do things properly now so that in the future generations, the people that are working here and living here 10 years from now aren't facing the same issues that we are today. Because we do want to keep James City County beautiful and have the water quality be even better than it is today. Luckily for us here in the county, as citizens, workers, we live in a county that has pretty good water quality, especially compared to those surrounding us. Um, we don't deal with a lot of the issues that larger cities and places where infrastructure blossomed really, really early on and they have a lot of concrete. But if we're not careful with our practices, both from the governmental side of things and also from a citizen side of things, we'll quickly get there. And that's kind of what we want to people to take away as we move on and impose some of those good stewardship practices, both in the home and also abiding by laws. One of the biggest things that I think that people can do to make sure that that continues to happen is spread education and awareness of you know good practices, regulations, things like that. Because what you find, especially so from my side of things, I deal with a lot of the regulations, and there's, like I said earlier, those regulations aren't put in place to say no so that you can't have a deck behind your house necessarily. But that does happen sometimes. There's, there's those areas does lead to downstream effects. And people don't always understand that, especially those who don't understand the regulations. But 9 times out of 10, I would say if you can get people to understand the reasons why we do these things, why it's important that there's less impervious area in a certain place, why there's vegetation covering banks, because there's organisms in those streams that are going to die if these things don't happen, or the Chesapeake Bay water quality could decrease. They're far more willing and understanding of what is being asked of them. So increasing education is one of my biggest things. I think that if you can get people to understand why it's good to pick up after your dog when you go walking at the York River State Park, um, understanding that their dog waste getting into the York River can have like detrimental effects on that park and on that river that they're recreating in, then you can really cause a behavior change that will affect something scientific. And I think that's a really, really good thing, and also a really, really important thing. I think that it's encouraging that these behavior changes can occur because of education, because education is also one of the simplest things. It's far easier than trying to retroactively fix water quality and do these, through decreasing pollutant loads. If you can attack the problem before it really starts, then I think that's definitely the route to go. Which is why um, commissions like this one, the Clean County Commission, spreading awareness, understanding what good habits are in place for you guys in the home, so that you guys can have a good, meaningful effect on water quality is really, really encouraging and impactful. The more that uh, we can get citizens like you guys to spread awareness of why it's really, really good to plant um, native vegetation in your yard, even if you don't see a stream near you, the better our water quality is going to be. Taking care of hazardous wastes like motor oil, understanding that there are consequences beside the fact that it looks really, really bad when we dump paint cans on the side of the road. But there's actual harmful and negative consequences of doing that towards the things that we hold so beautiful. Because everybody likes to recreate around the rivers and the streams, but nobody wants to see them degrade. Nobody wants to see them have swimming hazard and uh, warnings on them, things that say that you can't go in the water, that you can't eat fish out of certain places, things like that. So increasing that education on why there are certain practices that can't be done, I think will ultimately lead to people doing less and less of those activities. So I think that organized efforts like stream cleanups, those are all really, really good things. I know the Clean County Commission has a lot of initiatives that people can go out and pick up parks. We're really, really lucky that a lot of our parks here in James City County are kind of revolved or centered around these bodies of water that we're trying to protect, like York River State Park, Powhatan Creek Canoe Launch, all those places where people go and have fun on a weekly basis can be cleaned up, and every little thing counts in those aspects. Whether it's making sure that the Pepsi can that is littered across the trail doesn't make it into the Little Creek Reservoir, that's a huge thing. And making sure that pet waste is there. We try our hardest here at the county to provide pet waste receptacles at all these places. Um, we have options for people to get pet waste receptacles in their HOAs to encourage people to pick these things up. And yeah, it's I think the a big thing to take away is that all the little things add up to a lot as far as water quality goes. And it's a lot to try and take in and understand, but it's uh it's the little things that really, really kind of make this place beautiful, and also to keep it that way as well.
Thanks so much, Trevor. That was very well put. It's bay conservation is a giant idea, but every little piece really counts, to build it up. Awesome. So at this time, we're going to kind of review what Trevor said, talking specifically about the action steps we can take. But before we take that leap, does anyone have any questions for Trevor before we jump into the actions that we can take as citizens to be good stewards? Does anyone have any questions for him at this time? If you do, you can speak up. You can type in the chat. All right, no problem. If you think of anything, feel free to put it in the chat, or at the end of the presentation, we'll have another opportunity for questions. I know we just heard a lot, and I'm digesting it all.
Yeah, I do know that there is a lot to be said for water quality, and it is a lot to take in all at one time. So if you do want me to kind of dissect any of those pieces in more depth, I'd be certainly happy to.
Well, let's dive into some actions we can take. So based on what Trevor has said, and here's just maybe some extra information, or maybe some of the same information as well. One important step we can all take, I know that it's kind of that time of year to be thinking about your garden, think about what you're putting outside, and what type of plants you're going to get from the nursery, or what kind of seed packets you're going to get to make your yard and your house beautiful and plant filled. And so the big takeaway we have today is plant native plants. And if you were with us for one of our first stewardship hours, we heard from Adrienne Frank all about pollinator plants, and she left us with a phenomenal resource where she laid out some favorite pollinator plants, and there's a note next to which ones are native plants. So I've linked that resource from Adrienne back in one of our early stewardship hours to this slide. And again, when at the end of this presentation, I'll share this presentation as a PDF, so you can go back and look at any of these slides and click right on the resource to access it. So if you're looking for some good native plant ideas and double whammy, get a pollinator garden at the same time, here's some awesome ideas from Adrienne Frank. And I'll just read what this is some information that Trevor shared with me, just to kind of rehash what he said before. So planting native plants is especially important if you live near a stream, water, or wetland. Plants help reduce the amount of erosion and nutrients flowing into the estuaries. Even if you don't live directly near a body of water, you are still in a drainage area that leads to an estuary. Plants also produce various other environmental benefits for local wildlife and soil health. So you can't go wrong, plant native plants. That's our takeaway for action number 1 that we can all take. Action number 2, this is a volunteer geared action. So something you can do with a group of people, socially distanced, of course, or just on your own as well. We have a couple of awesome cleanups coming up and ways to organize a stream or beach cleanup. The first thing I want to share about is from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. There's a Clean the Bay Day from May 31st to June 5th. And so again, this is this purple underlined Chesapeake Bay Foundation is a live link. So when you get this PDF PowerPoint, you can open it up and click right on it to go find out more about Clean the Bay Day and how to get involved. The next volunteer opportunity we have is actually at the end of March. It's the Great American Cleanup. And there's a link you can register for the Great American Cleanup through Ask HR Green. And that's more, we'd be happy to provide any materials you might need for a safe cleanup. We have grabbers, we have bags, we have bag holders as the Clean County Commission. So feel free to reach out to us if you need any of that for doing the Great American Cleanup at the end of this month. We also have a really big event coming up. It's our 43rd annual spring cleanup on April 17th. So here you can click for the flyer. I'll also share it with you in a second. And so we're very excited about that. And you can follow the information on the flyer to sign up a group of people for our spring cleanup, where it's always so much fun. And we always really make, Trevor's talking about picking up one Coke can make a difference. Well, we make a big difference on that day when we have so many people coming out and picking up litter and cleaning up our waterways that way. Or, if none of these pickup times work for you, if you need a little bit more of a wiggle room when it comes to planning your stream or beach cleanups, we have a new program, the Rent a Litter Loaner Kit program. And so if you would like to rent a loaner kit, you can contact Peg Borman, my co-chair of the Plain County Commission. One other volunteer action I wanted to point out is that we do have a stormwater program advisory committee. And if you'd like to learn more about that, that's linked at the bottom of this slide. So here I'd like to share with everyone our countywide spring cleanup flyer scheduled for April 17th. You can register by April 14th, please, so give us a little heads up. And what is great about this is we'll be there at the, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting, the Jolly Pond Convenience Center, and helping people unload any litter bags that they were able to collect. We can provide the materials, and it's just a great day all in all. So please contact Peg if you're interested in joining us on that day. This is the other program I mentioned we started up. We have two types of litter loaner kits. You can reach out to Peg to get a bag with a holder, and that involves 4 orange trash bags, which there's no cost to dispose those at any convenience centers in the county, a vest, a pair of gloves, a grabber, and a bag holder. If you'd like the loaner kit without a bag holder, there's 4 trash bags. Again, no cost to dispose those, 2 vests, 2 pairs of gloves, and 2 grabbers. So depends on if you're, what kind of pickup you're doing, but we are happy to help coordinate that with any citizen. I know right now we are sort of discouraged from planning big events where lots of people come by, so we thought we'd bring the litter pickup to you at your convenience. That's sort of our COVID response, and we want to make sure that everyone's still getting out there to pick up litter. I just heard a great radio show the other day on NPR talking about how Keep America Beautiful affiliates all around the country have been noticing that there's more and more litter. So this is something that we can all sort of hand in hand together, we can work on this together. The third type of action we have is, like Trevor was saying, sort of understanding the rules and laws that already exist and sharing the information, and not just sharing the information about what the rule or law or regulation is, but explaining the why behind those regulations to help people understand that this is for a greater cause. It's not just because the county really doesn't want your back deck. It's because there really is an ecological impact to what we build and what we do. So the first one we wanted to share with you about today is the fact that James City County is a Chesapeake Bay preservation locality, which means that there's a 100-foot buffer zone extending landward of any perennial body of water, like rivers, streams, wetlands, etc. This buffer zone restricts certain development activities to reduce stormwater runoff from entering into estuaries. So it's good to know that that is something that exists. The next one we wanted to share about is the illicit discharge ordinances are also in effect within the county. This prohibits individuals from discharging pollutants such as oil, paints, gasoline, and other harmful substances from entering the waterways. And the county and organizations within the county do organize several hazardous waste pickups throughout the year. So if you're worried about how to get rid of those things, there's plenty of ways throughout the year. Kind of keep your ear to the ground, and if you want to hear about when or where specifically at the end of this presentation, we can talk about that. All right, our next action usually focuses on the economy. I wanted to use this time to plug our small businesses. Especially during this time, it's important that we be supporting local businesses and that we be looking to commend them for great sustainability practices they have. You might want to ask your local, your favorite business, your favorite local business about what they do to protect waterways, and if they, if you like what you hear, you might want to point them in the direction of our Clean Business Award. Just recently, we have started to, we've been in contact with the Greater Williamsburg Business Council. So on the Greater Williamsburg Business Council website in their business directory, it's now noted if businesses have received our Clean Business Award. So we're trying to get more recognition to our local businesses and to businesses who are just doing the right thing. So we're very proud of the businesses that we've been supporting so far throughout the years. But yeah, we're really looking for more nominations. We want to make sure we're supporting the business groups. All right, and the last action you can take is to share the video of this Zoom. It'll be on the YouTube channel in the county under the Stewardship Hour. It's also, you can find it on the Clean County Commission website. We have a Stewardship Hour link there. So this video will be up there on YouTube, and if you want it before it's ready on YouTube, you can always reach out to me personally, Emma Zara Newman, and I'll be happy to send a link to you. At this time, this is the time where we have our exit ticket. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a pop quiz. That's the teacher in me. I have to make sure that you have your exit ticket. You learned something today. If you wouldn't mind looking into the chat, there is, oops, sorry, that's not it. That's one of our resources. There will be in just a second a link to our survey that I would love it if everyone would take it so that we can know what people are pledging to do. Are you going to plant native plants? Then you check off, yes, I think I'll plant a native plant. If you're going to educate someone on a policy, then you can check off, yes, I'd like to educate someone on a policy, just so we can keep an idea of how effective our stewardship hour is being, and so that you can kind of you can go through the motions in your own head to decide, this is my checklist. I'm going to commit to these 3 things or these 4 things. It's kind of unrealistic that you're going to do every single pickup that I just talked about. I'm not going to do half of them, but commit to one of them. And that's the little things that count, that get to a better, cleaner county. But I hope you all had a great stewardship hour. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be here. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes. I hope that everyone can click on the link in the chat. Does anyone have any questions at this time for Trevor or Peg or me? Thank you all so much for joining today. I know I learned a lot.
Yeah, and thank you guys a ton again for having me. I really appreciate it, and I do encourage you guys to reach out if you do have any questions. I think my contact information is somewhere around here. If you do want to get involved in something stormwater related, there are a lot of opportunities for outreach and education. Another big one that Emma put up was the Stormwater Program Advisory Council, SPAC. We are looking for new members, and if you're interested in this type of thing, it's a committee that meets every other month, and we take a look at what's going on here in the county and different ways that people can get involved. So if you have any interest in this type of thing that we kind of breezed over in tonight's meeting, I definitely encourage you guys to reach out and get involved in that way.
And I just did want to say before everyone signs off that our next stewardship hour will be focusing on sustainable gardening with a specific focus on 2 topics we've already talked about, which is compost and pollinators. Thinking about making our gardens for the spring. That will be in May, on the 2nd Thursday of the month. Yeah. And there's some more resources at the end of this presentation if you'd like to learn more. You can go to the Stormwater and Resource Protection website on the county website, or you can look up the James River Association and get some more information there too. Great. Well, thanks everyone. I'm going to shut the Zoom down. Did everyone get a chance to click on the link in the chat? Does anyone need to be sent it again? Okay. We really appreciate the feedback. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peg.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks. See ya. Bye, everyone.